were forged from terror and his heart, from 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 his, were forged from terror and his heart from conquest. But they never saw the way he stood before empty mirrors, searching for a face he could no longer remember. They never heard the silence that filled his nights, a silence so deep it had weight, pressing against his chest like stones piled one by one across 800 years. His name was Dorian. Once, that name had meant something. Power, fear, dominion over the creatures that haunted the spaces between streetlights and locked doors. Now it was just a sound, hollow as the throne room where he sat alone, night after night, watching dust gather on a crown he no longer bothered to wear. The castle around him breathed with ancient stillness. Tapestries hung motionless on stone walls. Candles burned without flickering, their flames frozen in time like everything else in his world. In the great hall, a mirror stretched from floor to ceiling, its silver surface reflecting everything except him. He stood before it now, gloved hands hanging at his sides, staring at the empty space where his reflection should have been. 8 centuries, and he had forgotten what his own smile looked like. The door behind him opened. He did not turn. He knew the footsteps, measured and careful, belonging to the only companion who had stayed when all others had either died or betrayed him. "My lord," Sebastian's voice carried the weight of 300 years of friendship and 300 years of watching that friendship slowly calcify into duty. "The council awaits." Dorian closed his eyes. Let them wait. They have been patient. They have been circling. Dorian turned from the mirror that held no trace of him. Like wolves who smell weakness on the wind, Sebastian stepped closer. In the candlelight, his face showed the careful neutrality of someone who had learned long ago not to question too openly. But his eyes, those eyes still held something that resembled concern, perhaps even care. How long has it been? Sebastian asked quietly. Dorian knew what he meant. The question beneath the question. How long since you fed? How long since you took what you need to survive? How long since you stopped being what you were made to be? 37 days. The words came out steady, but Sebastian flinched as if struck. Dorian, I know what it is. Then you know what will happen if you continue. Dorian moved past him toward the window. Outside, the city sprawled in darkness, a constellation of electric lights trying to hold back the night. Somewhere down there, people were living, laughing, holding each other against the cold, building small, fragile moments of warmth in a world that did not care whether they survived or perished. I have taken enough, Dorian said, from this world, from the people in it. I have centuries of blood on hands I cannot even see in a mirror. He held up his gloved fingers, black leather against the darkness. When does it become enough, Sebastian? When do I earn the right to simply stop? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. Then, softer than before, the council will not see it as nobility. They will see it as weakness. And they will act. Then let them act. They want you to execute the Morrison family, the ones who fled north to avoid the blood tax. Dorian's jaw tightened. They are guilty of wanting to live. They are guilty of defying the old laws. The old laws. Dorian turned, and for the first time in years, Sebastian saw something flicker in his lord's eyes that looked almost like anger. Not the cold rage that had built empires of fear, but something warmer, more human, more dangerous. The old laws were written by creatures who had forgotten what it means to be afraid, to be small, to matter so little that your entire existence could be erased, and the world would not even pause to notice. He moved toward the door, brushing past Sebastian. I will speak to the council, but I will not give them what they want. The council chamber smelled of old stone and older blood. 7 figures sat in high-backed chairs arranged in a half-circle, their faces carved from shadow and candlelight. They had ruled beside him, beneath him, for longer than most nations had existed, and they were angry. Dorian entered without ceremony. No crown, no throne. Just a man in a dark coat, gloved hands clasped behind his back, standing before judgment he no longer recognized as legitimate. The Morrison family, the eldest said, her voice like silk drawn over broken glass. Your decision? They live. The chamber went cold, not metaphorically. The temperature dropped, breath misting in the air, frost creeping across stone. They defied the blood tax, another voice, male, sharp. They ran. They hid their children from their duty to feed us. Their duty. Dorian spoke the words as if tasting something bitter. Is that what we call it now? Duty? Not theft? Not predation? Not the systematic bleeding of people who have no choice in the matter? They are cattle, the eldest said simply. We are the wolves. This is the order of things. Then perhaps, Dorian said quietly, the order of things is wrong. The silence that followed was absolute. Somewhere in the castle a clock ticked. Water dripped. The world continued, indifferent to the heresy that had just been spoken in a chamber built on 800 years of unquestioned tradition. The eldest rose. You are unwell, my lord. The hunger is affecting your judgment. My judgment has never been clearer. When did you last feed? Dorian met her gaze. 37 days ago, from a volunteer, someone who offered freely. And before you ask, it will be the only way I feed from now on, if I feed at all. The council erupted. Voices overlapping, angry and afraid. Accusations of madness, of betrayal, of weakness that would bring their entire world crashing down. Dorian stood in the center of it, unmoved, listening to the sound of his kingdom tearing itself apart, because he had dared to suggest that cruelty was not strength. Sebastian appeared at his elbow. My lord, we should— I am leaving, Dorian said. Not to the council, not to Sebastian, to no one in particular, and everyone at once. I am going somewhere I can think, And when I return, we will discuss how power can serve instead of take. Or we will discuss nothing at all." He walked out. Behind him, the eldest called, "If you walk through that door, you walk as a traitor. The crown will not protect you." Dorian paused in the doorway. He did not turn back. "The crown," he said softly, "has never protected anyone, least of all me." The night outside was cold and wet. Rain fell in sheets, washing the streets clean of everything except the smell of asphalt and distant regret. Dorian walked without destination, gloved hands in his pockets, collar turned up against weather that could not touch him, but somehow still felt appropriate. He had no plan, no purpose, just the vague sense that if he stayed in that castle one more night, surrounded by creatures who measured worth in blood and fear, he would become the very thing he was trying to escape. Or perhaps he already was that thing, and this walking, this searching, was just the last desperate act of something dying slowly in the dark. The city thinned as he walked. Skyscrapers gave way to smaller buildings. Clean streets became cracked sidewalks. The people here looked different, tired, real. The kind of exhaustion that came not from existential dread, but from working 2 jobs and still wondering how to pay rent. And then he saw it, a diner. Small, squat, glowing with neon that buzzed and flickered like a dying heartbeat. The sign read Rosie's in cursive letters that had lost 2 of their bulbs. Through the fogged windows he could see movement, people, life happening in the smallest, most ordinary way. Dorian stopped on the sidewalk across the street. Rain ran down his face, soaking his coat, but he did not move. He watched through the window as a young woman in a faded red uniform moved between tables. She refilled coffee, cleared plates, smiled at a trucker who barely looked up from his phone. Small kindnesses, automatic and unnoticed. There was a burn scar on her wrist. He could see it even from this distance, a small mark where she had moved too quickly near a grill and paid the price. Her name tag was cracked, the letters worn almost smooth, but he could read it. Maeve. She moved with the kind of tired grace that came from doing the same work night after night, year after year, and still choosing to do it with something that resembled care. When she bent to pick up a dropped fork, she did not sigh. When a customer spoke curtly to her, she smiled anyway. She simply did the work, as if it mattered, as if she mattered. Dorian felt something shift in his chest, not hunger, something else. Something he had not felt in so long he had to search his memory for the word. Hope. He crossed the street. The door handle was cold beneath his gloved fingers, the metal worn smooth by countless hands. The bell above chimed when he pushed it open, a bright, harmless sound that somehow felt like an invitation he did not deserve. Warm air rushed out to meet him. The smell hit him all at once. Burned coffee, dish soap, frying grease, and underneath it all, faint and sweet vanilla. The fluorescent lights buzzed with an impatient rhythm, casting everything in a harsh, honest glow that left no room for shadows to hide. Inside, the diner was almost empty. The trucker had dozed off in his booth, his plate still half full. An old jukebox in the corner hummed something so low it felt more like memory than music. And behind the counter, scraping plates into a bin, humming softly to herself, stood Maeve. She looked up as the bell chimed. For just a second, something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe? Or recognition of a kind that had nothing to do with ever having met before. Just the instinctive awareness that the man standing in the doorway, dripping rain onto her floor, did not belong in a place that smelled of tired dreams and cheap coffee. But she straightened, brushed a loose strand of hair from her face, and offered a smile that was small but genuine. "Sit anywhere you like," she said, voice gentle but hoarse from hours of use. "I'll be right with you." Dorian chose a booth in the far corner, back against the wall, where he could see every exit without turning his head. Old habits. The worn vinyl seat creaked under his weight. He folded his gloved hands on the table, the black leather stark against the chipped formica surface. The menu lay between them, words blurring together as his mind wrestled with the steady drum of living hearts. He did not need food. Human dishes were nothing but texture to him, air and memory shaped into something that pretended to sustain. Yet he always ordered when he entered places like this. It was a small courtesy, a kindness so tiny it would have made his counsel laugh. But for him, it was a line. If he entered as a customer, he would try to leave as one, not as a predator. Maeve approached with a notepad that had been folded and unfolded too many times. Up close, he saw the burn scar more clearly, pink and puckered on her wrist. He saw the faint purple shadows under her eyes that no amount of makeup could hide. He saw the way her shoulders carried weight that had nothing to do with plates or coffee pots, but she smiled anyway. And somehow, impossibly, the diner's cold light seemed to warm by one fragile degree. "Long night?" she asked, because small talk was cheaper than silence. Dorian lifted his eyes to hers, and for a moment she forgot to breathe. His irises were an impossible shade, too bright, too clear, like moonlight trapped in glass. But what made her pause was not their color. It was the sorrow behind them, deep and ancient, as if he had watched entire worlds rise and fall and still found no place to rest. "Long life," he answered quietly, his voice smooth and low, carrying an accent she could not place. "Night is the only part that feels honest anymore." He had not meant to say that much. Words usually came to him like weapons, sharp and precise and controlled. But in front of this tired girl, with the cracked name tag and the burn scar and the stubborn kindness in her eyes, honesty slipped out before he could stop it. Maeve gave a small huff of laughter, the kind you make when something is too true to be funny, but you laugh anyway. "Tell me about it," she said. "I'm pretty sure the sun forgot this place exists." She opened her notepad. "What can I get you?" "Coffee," he said. "Black, and whatever you would recommend for someone who has not eaten in a long time." Her pen paused. She studied him with quick, worried eyes. "You okay? You look tired, or like you just got out of a hospital or something." "I am fine," he lied gently. "Just far from home." She nodded as if that explained everything. Maybe for her it did. Being far from home was a kind of hunger too. As she walked away, Dorian watched the way she moved, hurried but careful. She refilled the trucker's water before he even stirred. She picked up a napkin that had fallen near the jukebox. She wiped down the counter that was already clean. Small acts of service performed with quiet dignity, as if making life a little easier for strangers was purpose enough. The bell above the door rang again, sharper this time. Two young men stumbled in, laughing too loud, the smell of cheap beer following them like a cloud. One of them bumped into Maeve as she carried the coffee pot, almost knocking it from her hand. "Whoa, careful there, sweetheart," he said, steadying the pot in a way that was more possessive than helpful. "Didn't see you." "It's okay," she replied quickly, pulling back with a practiced smile. "Welcome in. Sit wherever you like." Dorian's jaw tightened. He could sense the slight spike in her heartbeat, could see the faint tremor in her fingers as she poured their drinks. She was used to this. Being overlooked, brushed aside, treated as if her comfort was just part of the service, something owed rather than something earned. It was not cruelty. Not exactly, just 1,000 tiny cuts, the kind that humans learn to live with until they forgot they were bleeding. His people would have considered this scene beneath his notice. A king does not involve himself in the clumsy rudeness of mortals, but something inside him stirred, a quiet, stubborn refusal. He had spent 37 days choosing not to take. Perhaps it was time to choose something else, to give, to protect, to matter in a way that did not leave corpses in his wake. Could he, just this once, do it differently? Maeve set the men's coffee down, one cup sloshing dangerously close to the edge. "Here you go," she said softly. "Thanks, gorgeous," one of them replied, eyes lingering longer than they should. Dorian rose from his booth before he knew he had decided to move. The sound of the vinyl bench scraping across the linoleum made Maeve glance up, surprised. Their eyes met for a heartbeat. She saw something there, concern, or warning, or maybe just the quiet decision of someone who had finally had enough of watching good people be treated like they were invisible. He crossed the small diner with calm, measured grace that made the air feel suddenly heavier. The two men looked up, their laughter fading as they took in his expression. He did not bare fangs, did not flash supernatural menace. He only placed his gloved hand on the back of an empty chair at the next table, his voice soft but absolutely firm. "Excuse me," he said, gaze fixed on them but tone strangely respectful. "You are making the lady uncomfortable." Maeve froze, coffee pot halfway to the warmer. The men exchanged glances, amusement flickering in their eyes. "We're just talking, man," one of them said. "No harm." "I did not say there was harm," Dorian replied quietly. "I said she is uncomfortable. That is enough." His words fell into the diner like stones into still water. The trucker in the corner looked up, sensing something unusual was happening. The jukebox crackled and skipped to silence, as if even the music was holding its breath. Maeve's throat tightened. No one had ever done this, spoken for her like this, not without wanting something in return, not this calmly, this absolutely, as if her feelings were reason enough to redraw the rules of the room. The young man at the table frowned, starting to rise, stubborn pride pushing him forward. "Who do you think you—" And then he stopped, just stopped, because something in Dorian's eyes had changed. Not fangs, not claws, only presence. The air around him seemed to thicken, and the shadows in the corners of the diner leaned in just slightly, just enough to make the fluorescent lights feel inadequate against the dark. The man felt his bravado drain like water from a cracked glass. He sat back down, slowly. His friend did the same, both of them suddenly very focused on their coffee cups. "Thank you for your understanding," Dorian said, and turned away as if he had done nothing at all. Maeve stood there, heart pounding in her fingertips, watching this strange man in the dark coat return to his booth. He moved like someone carrying an enormous weight, but carrying it with such practiced grace that you only noticed when he finally set it down. "Wait," she called before she could talk herself out of it. He stopped, turned, looked at her with those impossible eyes that held too much sorrow to be anything but real. "You didn't have to do that," she said, voice shaking, but not from fear. "People don't usually, they just watch." He studied her for a long moment. "I am tired of watching," he said simply. "Besides, kindness should not be this rare. It is unsettling." Her lips curved into the smallest smile, one that reached her eyes this time. "Well, thank you, really." He inclined his head, a gesture that was almost a bow, old-fashioned and strangely natural. Then he returned to his booth, and Maeve returned to the counter, and for just a few minutes, the world continued as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But Dorian felt it, the shift. The crack in the foundation of 800 years of careful distance. He had touched someone's life without taking from it, had used his presence not to terrorize, but to protect. It was such a small thing, such a fragile, human thing. And it felt like the first real choice he had made in centuries. He was still thinking about it, about the way Maeve had smiled, about the warmth that had flickered in his chest like a candle he thought had long since burned out when the weakness hit. It came without warning. One moment he was lifting the coffee cup Maeve had brought him, the next, the room tilted violently. The neon lights smeared into streaks of color. His vision dimmed at the edges, closing in like a tunnel collapsing. The cup slipped from his gloved fingers, shattering on the table. Hot coffee spread across the formica, dripping onto the floor, and Dorian reached for the edge of the booth to steady himself, but his hand would not grip. His fingers slid uselessly across the wet surface. A sound escaped his throat. Not a growl, not a command, something closer to a cry. "Hey!" Maeve gasped, rushing forward. "Hey, are you—" Dorian tried to answer, but the words would not come. His knees buckled. For the first time in 800 years, he realized with a shock that cut through the weakness like a blade, that he could actually fall, that his body, starved and refusing to take what it needed, was finally giving out. His last clear image before the darkness took him was Maeve's face as she reached out, eyes wide, hand outstretched, not in fear, in concern. And then the floor rushed up to meet him, and the night itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if the vampire king, who had chosen kindness over survival, would live long enough to learn what came next. The sound his body made when it hit the floor was softer than Maeve expected, like a heavy coat slipping from a hanger. For a terrifying second she thought he was dead. Then she realized that was impossible. No one looked that intensely alive, and just stopped. "Sir?" she cried, dropping to her knees beside him. The trucker stood halfway, uncertain. The two men in the booth glanced at each other, then looked away. People were always brave until responsibility arrived. Maeve slipped her hands under the stranger's shoulders. The moment her skin touched his, a jolt ran through her. Cold, sharp. Not painful, but so wrong it made her gasp. His skin wasn't just cold from the rain. It was the deep, steady cold of stone left in moonlight for centuries. "Hey, can you hear me?" she whispered. "Stay with me." The cook appeared. "You want me to call an ambulance?" "No," came a rasp from the man in her arms. Maeve leaned closer. "You're awake. Don't move." "Help me to the back," he managed, eyes fluttering open. "Please, not an ambulance." Something in his voice stopped her from arguing. Not desperation, exhaustion. The kind that came from knowing exactly what would happen if she called for help, and knowing it would be worse than dying on a diner floor. "Help me," Maeve said to the cook. Between them, they carried him through the kitchen to the small break room behind. A sagging couch sat against one wall. They lowered him carefully. "I'm calling someone," the cook said. 5 minutes, Maeve replied. "If he's not better, we call." After the cook left, Maeve knelt beside the couch. In the harsh light, she saw him clearly. Skin too pale, too perfect, like marble. Shadows under his eyes deep purple. Lips colorless. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." "What's your name?" "Dorian." "I'm Maeve. You collapsed. Do you remember?" He nodded weakly. "I need to know what's wrong." She paused. "I can't feel your pulse, Dorian. I've tried. Your skin is... You're so cold." Dorian closed his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. "You should be afraid." "Maybe. But I'm not. I'm afraid for you. There's a difference." He looked at her, then really looked, and surprise flickered across his face. "I have a condition," he said slowly. "Hospitals cannot help. They would not understand what I am." "And what are you?" The question hung between them. A dozen emotions crossed his face. Fear, shame, weariness that spoke of centuries spent hiding. "Something you have every reason to fear," he said at last. Maeve sat back. She thought about the way he'd moved, the impossible grace, the shadows that had gathered when he'd faced those men, the cold skin and absent pulse. "I've held dying hands before," she said quietly. "My mother. 6 weeks of hospice. This isn't that. You're not dying. You're something else. Worse than dying. I don't believe that." "You don't know." "Then tell me." Her voice was gentle but firm. "Tell me what you are." Dorian stared at her. In 800 years, no one had simply asked and waited without judgment already written in their eyes. "I am very old," he began, "and very hungry, and I am something your world has correctly learned to fear. What I need to survive is..." He stopped. "Blood. Human blood. I am what your stories call a vampire." The word fell like a stone. Maeve's breath caught, not in fear but in the shock of confirmation. "Okay," she said. "Okay? What else should I say? You protected me tonight. You could have just..." She gestured vaguely. "But you didn't. You were kind. So maybe what you are and who you choose to be aren't the same thing." Something cracked open in Dorian's chest. A sound escaped him that was half laugh, half sob. "I have spent 37 days trying to prove exactly that," he said hoarsely. and not one of my kind has understood. Yet you, a human I've known less than an hour, simply accept it? I'm processing, but I'm not running, she paused. This weakness, is it because you haven't fed? Yes, 37 days. Why? Because I am tired of taking, tired of fear in eyes that see me as death, tired of waking knowing my existence demands someone else's suffering. He looked away. I thought if I simply stopped, I might find peace. That's not peace, that's giving up. Perhaps I've earned the right, maybe. But you haven't yet. You're still here, still trying. That counts. Dorian turned back, and she saw loneliness so profound it made her chest ache. What happens if you don't feed? She asked practically. Eventually, I lose control. The hunger makes the choice. I take from whoever is closest and I don't stop. And before that? Pain, weakness, then loss of everything that makes me different from the monsters I pretend I'm not. So you're choosing to suffer rather than hurt someone. I'm choosing to die slowly rather than become what I hate. That's not nothing, Dorian. That's actually kind of heroic. He laughed, raw and disbelieving. There is nothing heroic about it. Then let me help you search for another way. You cannot help with this. You're human. Your kindness makes you exactly the kind of person I should not be near. Maeve reached out slowly and placed her hand over his. His skin was cold, but she didn't pull away. Start small, she said. That's what my mom used to tell me. Don't solve the whole problem, just start small. Put down one thing. I do not understand. You're carrying centuries of guilt, fear of losing control, loneliness. You can't fix that tonight. But maybe you can put down one thing, like letting someone help you when you collapse. She squeezed gently. That's small. That's manageable. Dorian stared at their joined hands, at the trust offered freely to something that could kill her. You should not trust me. Probably not, but I'm going to anyway. Neither spoke for a moment. The diner sounds filtered through the door, ordinary sounds of the human world continuing, unaware that in a back room a vampire and a waitress were building something neither had words for yet. Tell me about you, Dorian said finally. Not much to tell. 26. Dad left when I was 8. Mom died 3 years ago. Cancer. Medical bills I'll probably never pay off. 2 jobs, studio apartment where the heat doesn't work great. She shrugged. Pretty standard. You speak of hardship as normal. It is normal, for a lot of us. Yet you still find room for kindness. Being alone and being lonely aren't the same thing. Alone just means nobody's there. Lonely means nobody sees you. I choose to see people, she paused. Because maybe if I keep choosing that, someday someone will choose to see me too. I see you, Dorian said quietly. Maeve with the cracked name tag and burn scar and tired eyes that still choose to smile. I see you. Her eyes went bright with unshed tears. Thank you. After helping him stand, they left through the back. The cook had gone home. The diner was empty except for ghosts of 1,000 other late-night conversations. They walked in silence for several blocks, Maeve supporting more of his weight than she should be able to. And then the hunger surged. It came without warning. Dorian fell to his knees on the sidewalk. His vision blurred red. Every sense sharpened to painful clarity. He could hear Maeve's heartbeat, loud as thunder. Each beat a drum calling his hunger to war. He could smell her blood beneath soap and coffee and vanilla, copper and salt and life. He wrenched away from her grasp, stumbling backward against a brick wall. You should step back, he ground out. Now. What's happening? The hunger, He couldn't finish. His jaw ached where fangs wanted to descend, where instinct screamed to close the distance, to take, to feed. Maeve didn't step back. She stood watching him fight himself. If you stay any closer, Dorian managed, I am not certain I can continue to be the man you think I am. The honesty was sharper than fangs. Underneath all his choices, he was still a predator, and she was prey. Maeve took a slow breath, then deliberately stepped closer. Then teach me, she said quietly. Teach me what you're afraid of so I know how to help instead of making it worse. Dorian stared. You should run. I'm not running. Maeve, no. You told me you're fighting to be better. You told me you choose to stop. You remember every person you've hurt. That's not a monster. That's someone carrying an impossible weight alone for too long. Something in her words cut through the red haze. Dorian felt his breathing steady, the fangs retract slightly, control strengthened by one fragile degree. Stay where you are, he said. Don't come closer, but don't run. Running triggers. He didn't finish. Okay, I'm staying still. Talk to me. About anything. Your voice helps. Maeve began to talk. About the diner. About her favorite customer. About the jukebox that only played 3 songs. About accidentally putting salt in the sugar dispenser. Her voice was steady, warm, achingly human. Slowly, minute by minute, the worst of the hunger receded. Not gone. Never gone. But manageable. Better? She asked eventually. Yes, thank you. What I just saw, that's what you're fighting every moment. Every hour, every time someone is close enough to hear their heartbeat. God, Dorian, that's... Her eyes were bright. I can't imagine. I would not wish you to. But I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid for you. There's a difference. Why? Because you're in pain. Because you're fighting yourself. Because nobody should carry that alone. She paused. I'm afraid you'll give up. I'm afraid you'll forget who you choose to be. Dorian felt something break inside him. Something that had held firm for 8 centuries suddenly crumbling. I don't know who I choose to be, he whispered. I only know I'm tired of who I was. Then that's enough for now. In the distance they heard footsteps. Measured, purposeful. Dorian's head snapped up. Sebastian appeared at the alley's entrance, face grave. Dorian, he said, we need to talk. 3:45 in the morning. Sebastian stood at the entrance, and Dorian felt the weight of centuries of friendship in his expression. How did you find me? I've been following since you left the castle, at a distance, making sure you didn't do something irreversible. He glanced at Maeve. But I see you found something else instead. Maeve straightened. I'm Maeve. Sebastian. He nodded courteously, then turned to Dorian. The council has made their decision. Dorian's jaw tightened. That was fast. They were waiting for an excuse. You gave them one. They've declared you unfit to rule. More than that, a threat to the covenant. Anyone who aids you will be considered a traitor. So they'll kill anyone who helps him? Maeve asked. Sebastian looked at her with respect. Yes, the council doesn't make idle threats. And you? Dorian asked. You're here, warning me. What does that make you? A traitor, apparently. I've covered for you for years, but tonight they ordered me to bring you back by force. When I refused, he shrugged. I chose my side. Sebastian, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. 300 years ago, you saved my life. I won't abandon you now. The council is sending hunters at dawn, Sebastian continued. They won't arrest you. They'll end you, and anyone with you. Maeve's hand found Dorian's arm. Then we leave. Get somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe, Sebastian said gently. Not from them. Then what do we do? Maeve asked. We? Dorian turned to her. Maeve, you need to walk away. This isn't your fight. You made it my fight when you stood up for me, when you chose kindness, when you trusted me with what you are. I'm not walking away. You will die. Maybe. But at least I'll die making my own choice. Sebastian watched with interest. She is brave, this human of yours. She is not mine. Isn't she? Isn't that precisely what the council fears? That you've found something they thought impossible, a reason to want to change. When will they come? Dorian asked. Dawn, perhaps an hour. They'll go to the diner first. It's closed. They won't care. When they find her scent mixed with yours. Sebastian didn't finish. Maeve paled but didn't move. So we wait for them, together. There is nothing to wait for, Dorian said. Sebastian, take her somewhere safe. I'll face them alone. No, Maeve said. Maeve, I said no. I'm not watching you sacrifice yourself because you think that's all you're good for. She's right, Sebastian added. Running won't help. They'll find us eventually. The only way is through. Through to what? Dorian demanded. We're 3 against an entire council. Then maybe we don't fight with numbers, Maeve said. Maybe we fight with what they don't expect. Both vampires looked at her. The truth, Maeve continued. They want you dead because you're trying to change, because you prove their whole system might not be the only way, right? Essentially, Dorian admitted. Then don't hide it. Don't apologize. Show them exactly what you are. Someone who chooses compassion over power. Make them see what they're really afraid of. That won't stop them from killing us. Maybe not. But at least they'll acknowledge what they're killing. Not a traitor, just someone trying to be better than what he was made to be. Dorian stared at this human who had somehow become the thing he'd searched for across 8 centuries, a reason to keep fighting. You are extraordinary, he said softly. I'm a waitress with medical debt and a name tag held together with tape. I'm ordinary. No, Dorian said. You see people. You choose kindness. You stand your ground. That is the rarest thing I have ever encountered. For a moment they simply looked at each other. I hate to interrupt, Sebastian said, but we have 45 minutes. If we're doing this, we need a plan. They went back to the diner. The place where hope had first flickered seemed right for seeing if it could survive what was coming. 5:30 in the morning, 6 hours since Dorian had collapsed. 6 hours of conversation and crisis and choices that had slowly stitched something fragile but real between the 3 of them. The feeding had steadied Dorian, given him strength enough to face what was coming. But strength was not the same as certainty. They waited in the diner. Maeve made more coffee. Sebastian stood by the window, watching the sky lighten from black to deep blue. And Dorian sat in the same booth where this had all begun, running his thumb across the cracked formica and wondering if this small, tired place would be the last thing he ever saw. They're here, Sebastian said quietly. The bell above the diner door chimed, but this time the sound carried no warmth, no welcome. The air that rushed in was impossibly cold, as if winter itself had decided to visit. Frost crept across the windows in delicate, deadly patterns. 3 figures entered, tall, draped in coats that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their faces were beautiful in the way that ancient marble is beautiful, perfect, cold, utterly devoid of mercy. The eldest stepped forward first, a woman whose silver hair was pulled back with severe precision, whose eyes held the weight of ages that made Dorian seem young by comparison. "Dorian," she said. Not a greeting, an accusation. "Your absence has been noted." Dorian stood. He positioned himself between the newcomers and Maeve without appearing to move. Sebastian flanked him, a silent statement of loyalty. "Councillor Thorne," Dorian replied steadily. "I did not realize I required permission to leave my own castle." "You do not require permission," the second figure spoke, a man with features sharp as broken glass. "You require wisdom, which you seem to have misplaced somewhere between the throne room and this establishment." His gaze swept the diner with contempt, then settled on Maeve behind the counter. Her knuckles were white against the coffee pot handle, but she did not look away. "Step aside, human," Thorne said with the absolute certainty of someone addressing an obstacle rather than a person. "This does not concern you." Every instinct screamed at Maeve to obey, to make herself small and invisible as she had learned to do her entire life when power demanded compliance. But she thought of the last 6 hours, of Dorian's trembling hands and ancient loneliness, of his choice to stop feeding before he took too much, of his desperate attempt to be something other than what he was made to be. "He's a person," Maeve said, voice shaking but clear. "That concerns everyone." The silence that followed was absolute. The third figure made a sound that might have been a laugh or something darker. Thorne's expression did not change, but the temperature dropped 5 degrees. "You teach your pets interesting tricks, Dorian." "She is not a pet." Dorian's voice carried an edge sharp enough to cut. "And you will address her with respect or leave." "We came to bring you home," the second counselor said. "The court is in chaos. The lower ranks question your authority. There are whispers of rebellion." Let them rebel. You cannot mean that. I cannot continue to rule through fear and call it governance. Dorian straightened, every inch the king they claimed he was abandoning. A king belongs to his people. But I have forgotten what that means. When did we stop serving and start simply consuming? Thorn regarded him with something that might have been pity if she were capable of such emotion. You are unwell. The hunger has damaged your thinking. My thinking has never been clearer. Then you understand what we must do. She glanced at Maeve again, cold calculation in her eyes. She is the source of your confusion. Remove the source, restore clarity. Maeve felt the words like ice in her veins. They were not threatening Dorian. They were threatening her. Sebastian stepped forward. Thorn, there is another way. Silence. The command was absolute. You have already proven your loyalty compromised. Do not compound your treason. Dorian moved, placing himself fully between the council and Maeve. His presence suddenly filled the small diner like a storm preparing to break. You will not touch her, he said, and every word carried 800 years of absolute authority. You will not threaten her. You will not speak of her as if she is a problem to be solved. Then what is she? The second counselor demanded. What is this human to you that you would risk everything, your crown, your kingdom, your very existence, to protect her? The question hung in the air. Dorian had no answer that would make sense to them, not one that would fit into their world of power and ancient laws written in blood. But Maeve did. She stepped around the counter, moving carefully. She came to stand beside Dorian, not behind him, and when she spoke her voice was quiet, but carried through the frozen air. What would love do? Dorian turned to her, startled. What? You told me you've forgotten how to feel, Maeve continued, looking up at him. That 800 years of taking left you empty, so I'm teaching you, right now, this moment, what would love do? Her eyes were bright. Love protects. Love chooses. Love stays even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when every logical voice says to run. So what would love do, Dorian? What would it do right now? The Vampire King stared at this poor waitress in her faded red uniform and cracked name tag, this woman who had held him when he collapsed and asked not what he was, but what he needed. Something inside him cracked open. Centuries of power had taught him fear. One night with Maeve had taught him something else entirely. Love would stand, he said slowly, the words feeling new in his mouth. Love would refuse to let cruelty masquerade as strength. Love would choose the person beside it over the empire behind it. He turned back to the council. I choose her, and if that makes me a traitor to your kingdom, then so be it. I have been a king of darkness long enough. Perhaps it is time to learn what else I might become. Thorn's expression finally changed, not to anger, but to something colder, understanding. You condemn yourself. I free myself. It is the same thing. Then I will die free. The standoff stretched. The fluorescent lights buzzed. Outside, the sky continued its slow transformation from night to day. In the small diner that smelled of coffee and kindness, they waited to see which would win, 800 years of tradition, or one night of choosing something better. Thorn studied them for a long moment. Dorian standing protective, Maeve beside him, stubborn and brave. Sebastian flanking them both, 3 against the weight of centuries. Finally she spoke. Very well, Dorian, you have made your choice. She turned to leave, then paused. But know this, every moment you spare a human heart, you borrow danger from your own future. When the cost comes due, she looked at Maeve one last time. I hope she is worth it. She is worth everything, Dorian said simply. The 3 counselors swept out. The bell chimed their departure. The cold air dissipated, and the tension that had filled the diner slowly released, leaving behind exhaustion and the strange, fragile feeling of having survived something that should have killed them. Maeve let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Did we just win? Sebastian finished. In a manner of speaking. They didn't kill us. That's a victory. But they'll come back, Dorian said quietly. Yes, eventually, but not today. Sebastian smiled, tired but real. Today we survived. That's enough. Through the window, the sky was fully light now. Not yet sunrise, but close. That deep golden glow that comes before the sun breaks the horizon. Dorian walked to the window and stood there watching. The first rays of sun would hurt. They always did. But he did not move. He waited. Maeve joined him. What happens now? Now, Dorian said, and something that might have been hope flickered in his voice. You teach me what comes after loneliness. Maeve smiled. That's easy. Breakfast. She moved behind the counter, pulling out eggs and bread, moving through the familiar motions of making food for someone who needed it. Sebastian sat at the counter, watching with bemused fascination, as if he had never seen someone cook before. Dorian remained at the window as the sky continued to lighten, and when the light finally broke over the horizon, spilling gold across the city, across the diner, across his face, he felt it. Pain, yes. The sun burned against skin that had not seen daylight in centuries, but also warmth, real warmth. The kind that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with being alive in a moment that mattered. He stood there bathed in sunlight and understood that he had passed through something, not into death, but into the terrifying possibility of a different kind of life. Behind him, he heard Maeve humming as she cooked, heard Sebastian ask about coffee, heard the simple, ordinary sounds of people existing together without fear or hunger or the weight of centuries crushing down. And Dorian laughed. It was a small sound, rusty, unpracticed, but real. Maeve turned, spatula in hand. What? Dorian turned from the window, his face still in the sun, and looked at her. I ruled the night for 800 years, he said. Tonight a poor waitress taught me something my power never could. How to love, Maeve asked. How to want to be loved back. She set down the spatula and moved around the counter. She stood beside him in the sunlight, and slowly, carefully, she reached for his hand, his bare hand, the one that still trembled slightly. He let her take it, let her fingers intertwine with his, cold skin against warm, vampire against human, king against waitress. And none of it mattered, because underneath all those labels, they were just two people who had been lonely and were choosing not to be anymore. The sun continued to rise. The diner continued to exist, small and worn and perfect in its imperfection. And somewhere in the distance, a kingdom was fracturing. A crown was being abandoned. A world was changing because one tired king and one stubborn waitress decided that kindness mattered more than power. So, Sebastian said from the counter, breaking the silence, what is the plan? Dorian smiled, and it reached his eyes. I have no idea. For 800 years, I knew exactly what came next. Tonight, I know nothing. Good, Maeve said, squeezing his hand. Not knowing means you get to choose. Every day, every moment. That's what being alive feels like. I think I would like to learn how that feels. Then stay, I'll teach you. What will you teach me? She thought for a moment. How to make coffee without burning it. How to talk to people who aren't afraid of you. How to laugh at bad jokes. She paused. How to be happy with small things, because the small things are actually the only things that matter. Dorian looked at their joined hands, at the sunlight warming them both, at Sebastian eating eggs at the counter, at the diner that smelled of coffee and possibility. I would like that very much, he said. And as the sun rose fully over the city, washing the night away, the vampire king, who had spent 8 centuries alone, learned the first lesson of his new life. That love was not something you conquered or commanded or controlled. It was something you chose, again and again, in the smallest moments, in the quietest ways. It was standing in the sunlight with someone who saw you and choosing to stay. It was enough. It was everything. It was finally a reason to keep existing. And for Dorian, who had forgotten what hope felt like. It was more than he had ever dreamed to ask for from a single night in a forgotten diner with a poor waitress and a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. The end was just the beginning, and the beginning tasted like sunrise.